founder of Banda Global Consults. We exist to support. Welcome. I'm Dr. Banda Khalifa, a physician and a global health strategist, and the founder of Banda Global Consults. We exist to support ambitious professionals and institutions committed to global impact. If you're here, you're serious about excellence in global health, in academia, and in leadership. Whether you're facing a critical career transition, seeking advanced academic admission, or positioning yourself for influential leadership, we provide strategic guidance and targeted execution to accelerate your success.
Emmanuel Animashan. I am a Nigerian physician. I met Dr. Banda sometime last year when I was at a very confusing stage of my application process, trying to apply to public health schools in the United States. I needed information and I went online in search of it. I found his LinkedIn profile and I went through it. I remember I spent a long day going through his LinkedIn profile and I got a lot of insight into the application process. I also followed his YouTube channel where I saw a lot of videos. By following him and following the steps he had outlined, I had positive results.
What drew you to?
Maybe after the program, we can stick around for. I'll say it's maybe 5 minutes. A lot of factors. For one, Bloomberg School of Public Health is known for its reputation in public health, being a #1 school of public health. I've had the privilege of having my master's degree here and understand the rigorous nature of the program. So it's really sets the program apart from other schools. Another thing that drew me to the Bloomberg School of Public Health for my PhD is mainly the network that I built during the MPH program. I really wanted to build on these networks and further expand the networks that I already have. And as a side note, most of the courses that I did in the MPH were transferable to the PhD program. So it was a seamless transition from the MPH program to the PhD program. So we'll go live very soon. Trying to set up this thing. I want you to take a look around you today. You are united by a shared mission. The world outside is holding its breath for solutions, trustworthy health communications, and for the restoration of its faith in institutions. You are embarking on a journey that will test more. If you can repost the original post, that will help. Into a folder to the center of global discourse here at Johns Hopkins. The pandemic hasn't just underscored the need for our work, it has also revealed the steep path ahead, rebuilding public trust in health institutions.
My name is Sharon Kabo, and I'm a medical doctor from Ghana, and currently a dual MPH MBA student at the Johns Hopkins University. During my application process, I met Dr. Banda Khalifa, who helped me throughout the process, from the selection of my schools to my recommenders, and even the entire SUPAS process. He helped put the application together, which helped me to finally gain admission to most of the schools that I selected, which includes the Brown University, Columbia University, University of Pennsylvania, and Johns Hopkins University, where I'm currently enrolled. I'd like to recommend his YouTube channel to you and his LinkedIn channel. Kindly follow him for any tips you would need to make your application process an easy one. Thank you.
At the end of the application cycle, I had offers from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, from Emory, from Yale. Basically, I had offers from the schools I applied to, and I got really nice scholarship offers too. Eventually, I decided to attend Johns Hopkins University, where I'm currently enrolled as an MPH MBA dual degree candidate, and it was also very helpful in deciding which school I picked eventually, because it was a tough process deciding from the really nice offers I had.
So, come along with me as I share the strategies of putting together a very strong application for graduate school. I will also be inviting program directors and admission committee members to come and share their thoughts on how to get into their programs.
My name is Cornelius Nomeshi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard THM School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test scores and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University.
My name is Munib Zaidi. I'm a dual degree MPH MBA from Karachi, Pakistan. I just finished my program. I want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Banda Khalifa. He's been inspirational for all of us, a role model. So keep watching his channel, subscribe for more details, and you'll be here one day just like all of us. Thank you.
How was your experience?
It was great because of you. It wouldn't have been the same without you.
Shapurva, I have got into admissions in an MPH for 2025 cohort. I'm very happy to be here. And one of the main person who I followed to get my essays done during my application process is Banda Khalifa. His videos on YouTube I used to follow, and it was really helpful and kind of motivating for me to get into Johns Hopkins. Very much thank you, Banda. Thank you so much.
Congrats for making it. Yeah. If you're ready to lead now, not later, schedule your private strategy session. Let's begin. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on today's live stream. So we are currently live on LinkedIn and YouTube for today's Q&A session. I'm Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'll be your host for this discussion. So this session is mainly for anyone who is thinking about the graduate school application process, especially if you are interested in applying to the US or the UK. This is the right place for you. I'll be joined by a very special guest, Dr. Abdulazeez, who recently graduated from a PhD program from Oxford University. So he knows, he has a first-hand experience of applying to graduate school in the UK. Our aim today will be to provide you with clear, practical answers so that you leave here knowing exactly what to do. We have just 1 hour, so without wasting much time, I would invite our special guest to the program.
Okay.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Good, Banda. How are you?
I'm okay. How is where are you currently resided? London, Manchester, Liverpool?
No, so London.
Okay. How's London?
Yeah, fine. I was just watching your advert and I was like, Banda has gone global and international.
Yeah, it's small. It's with the support that we've gotten here. Yeah, so I think we have exactly just 1 hour. So I want us to dive straight in. What I want us to talk about will be in key segments. So the first segment will be to quickly run through your experiences in the UK, and I'll run through my experiences in the US, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A, maybe the last 35 minutes for Q&A. So before we begin, can you kind of tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from? I know where you're from, but maybe, my listeners don't know. And then a brief, trajectory on your academics, and then we can move from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Banda. Thank you for having me. My name is Abdulazeez Imam in full. I finished as a medical doctor in Nigeria, went into residency training, completed pediatrics in Nigeria. During my pediatric training, I took a gap year for a master's in epi and biostatistics at the University of Leeds in the UK. Following my program, I went to the Medical Research Council in the Gambia, where I was involved in vaccine clinical trials for about 3 years. Then I got a fully funded PhD at the University of Oxford. I finished the PhD now, and I'm currently in higher clinical training in the UK in pediatrics. Yeah. So that's
Awesome.
briefly about.
Yeah. I think that is very brief and very accurate for the kind of program we're doing. So, I mean, if you're also new on this channel, I provide strategies on graduate school, but brief about my story. Also, I'm from Ghana, trained as a medical doctor, worked in the public sector for a while before joining the military, and then worked with the UN for a couple of years and decided to come for graduate school. So I came to Johns Hopkins for an MPH and MBA, following which I led the COVID-19 program at the Baltimore City and also with the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Then I came back for my PhD with Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. So we'll go through briefly the particular steps that you need to take in order to get yourself into this position. So the first segment I would say would be to talk briefly about the application process itself. When you think back to your PhD application, what do you believe made your application stand out?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, Banda. I think, like most things in life, it's when you go forward, you think in retrospect, this was probably worked out. So when I was applying, I was stressed and I had no idea what I was doing. But in retrospect, I think what worked out was I was a good fit for that PhD program.
Yeah.
And I underline fit here because fit is very important. So I applied to a PhD that was focused on newborn health in low resource settings. Now, when I applied, I was a pediatrician who had trained in a low resource setting. I was working in the Medical Research Council then, so I had experience conducting research. I understood research culture, and I had published papers. Now, if you're somebody at the other end of the interview and you see someone who looks like that and you're advertising a neonatal project, they will come across as a good fit. So I say good fit in that sense, and it's just put it out there so people who wish to apply at some point, first question is how good a fit am I for whatever I'm applying for? So I think that was what stood me out.
Okay. And I think you make a very important point that at the PhD level, most programs are looking for candidates who are a good fit to their program or department. It doesn't matter the number of publications you have. It doesn't matter, the experience you've had. If they feel like your experiences will not be a good fit or will not blend in that particular department, it will be difficult to get a spot. So the whole strategy is trying to develop a story that makes you stand out as perhaps the best fit for that role. So I mean, I know like you've done your masters and your PhD in the UK. How important do you think your statement of purpose were in the application process?
Yeah. So what I'll say is your statement of purpose is like a snapshot of who you are and it tells your story. So they're actually very, very important in the application process. I mean, your CV doesn't tell a story unless someone is following it sequentially. So your statement of purpose adds like flesh to your CV. So for a PhD, yes, and for a master's, yes. But the converse is outside of statement of purpose, for PhDs, there's also the research proposal. In my particular PhD, a research proposal wasn't very important. And I'm sure that will come as a shock to a few people So I'll give you my story. I started trying to craft a research proposal to apply for my PhD. I spent like almost a year trying to get the best research proposal, and in the end, I didn't even need a research proposal to apply for a PhD. Um, yeah, so statement of purpose, yes. Some PhDs will need research proposals also. Others might not even need your research proposal.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. I think is the same with some PhD programs here in the US. You don't need a research proposal per se in order to apply. Um, all you need is more like a research interest. What areas do you want to work on? And even that, you don't have to be super specific about those particular fields. But programs differ, and in some programs, I know I have a mentee who was literally told to present his research proposal. So the whole PhD interview was a research proposal presentation before the admission process. Okay, so now, so for those who are not familiar, can you explain the the key steps in applying to, say, a graduate school in the UK, let's say University of Leeds or university, maybe for a PhD program, Oxford, for instance? What were like the key milestones that you had to take?
So what I would say is admission circles in the UK start September. So it's
Okay.
usually September-ish to December.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is a second circle that starts around January to April. So a few people get confused about these two circles. If you're looking for a funded program, the circle you want to think about is the September to December circle. So I've had people apply for January to April, get admission, and all of a sudden there's no funding. A lot of the funding circles in the UK are aligned to the September to December application. So the steps are so this is August. By August, if you are applying this year, you should have been able to sort out things like knowing if your university requires English language proficiency, for example. Do you need a transcript? Those are like the rate limiting steps that affect a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
when they apply for the academic degrees in the UK. So it will be getting that ready, your IELTS if you need one, getting your transcripts ready if you need one, and then applying in September. So you will apply between September and December. It will involve you in some cases submitting a personal statement, getting 3 or 4 referees, depending on what your program is. When you do that and application closes, successful people will be invited for interviews, and interviews will be linked to, for example, if you are applying for funding, you'll be invited for an interview, let's say around March, April, when the second round has closed. You'll be
Mm-hmm.
invited. So you will sit before an interview panel and be admitted if you get through.
Mm-hmm.
What also happens is, particularly for PhD, the same interview panel for, and this is from my experience, the same interview panel for admissions also assesses you whether you're fit enough for a
A
scholarship.
scholarship.
So I'll give you an example from my Oxford experience is if you had 30 people, or let's say 60 people attend a PhD interview, it might be they will rank you from 1 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
The first 10 will get admission and a scholarship. 20 to maybe 30
Mm-hmm.
or 35 might get admission, and then the rest will not get admission. So they're different. I think different universities will have different ways they do it. But then, in a nutshell, it's make sure you're applying between September and December. If you're successful in your application, for a lot of master's programs, they don't interview you. You just get a letter
Yeah.
saying you've been admitted. One, and your letter might say you've been admitted, you only have the admission, you don't have a scholarship. Or it might be you get a letter saying you've been admitted and you also have a scholarship. And at times, you'll actually get a letter saying you've not been admitted. So for my master's program, I remember applying to the LSHTM and Leeds. and I got into Leeds, but I got a letter from LSHTM saying I wasn't admitted. So that can happen. It is more the PhDs where you get interviewed. And if you think about it, the PhD is a lot. You're spending many years.
Yeah.
They need to know who you are. You can't just come in based on what you've written. So that's a long-winded answer, but a
Okay.
few
Yeah.
elements.
Yeah. I think you've kind of highlighted the key areas for the graduate school application. I think there are just some little differences between the UK experience and the US experience. And I know, like in your narration, you didn't mention maybe what's evaluation. So in the US, one of the key milestones that often derail applicants is the West evaluation or the transcript evaluation. So that is a key component of the US application process. So if you're applying to probably a STEM or more especially a public health related field, you will need to do a transcript evaluation, and that can take probably 1 to 3 months. So you need to start early. And I would also highlight that one key difference is also the timeline. So for the timeline, as we speak now, the US application cycle for the next admission or the next enrollment has begun, typically in the second half of August. And it's the same requirement: letters of recommendation, statement of purpose, your resume. Scholarships are based on the strength of your application. So for the at the master's level, your application also serves as your application for scholarship. So if your overall application is weak, you are not likely to get a scholarship. So the bar really is getting admission and also getting a scholarship, because you can get admission without a scholarship, and for most African students or most international students, that opportunity is is virtually cost 90, I would say. And then for the PhD level, most programs in the US, once you're admitted, your funding is somehow guaranteed for the duration of the program. So I would say this is mainly some of the differences that we can talk about. So if you're here, thank you for joining us, whether on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Keep your questions coming. We'll open the Q&A session very soon, so that we'll have your questions answered. So I think we've kind of highlighted some of the key areas, but did you have any challenge during your application process? Any specific challenge that you would highlight that most international students are bound to face?
To be honest with you, I think one challenge is lack of mentorship. It's it's very difficult to get mentors that show you this is the way you go about things. That's one. I think where I benefited from mentorship was when I moved from Nigeria as a pediatrician to the Medical Research Council in the Gambia. I was surrounded by a lot of people who were doing PhDs, had done PhDs, or had experience in it. And so I was able to speak to people, get knowledge of how they did it. That's one. Two is I was able to observe people, and at times mentorship, it's not only what people say. You can also observe what people do. So I was able to observe a few people, learn what to do, and learn not what to do. So that was me. What I would say in general is a lot of international students, I think the challenge is when it comes for applying for a PhD is getting high quality research exposure. For me, I moved to a place, the MRC in Gambia, which is a well-known research institute. I was exposed to high quality research, and that was good on my CV, and it showed me in a good light to someone in Oxford who felt this guy has research experience and can join my team. I think another challenge broadly, and this is speaking broadly, is international students face challenges when it comes to funding. There's less funding out there for international students, and that's just the sad truth. You apply to universities at times, and it might be there's 7 scholarships. 6 are for local students, one is for international
Yeah,
students. So there's less funding out there.
yeah.
It makes the competition rife. Yeah, that those are some of the challenges, and then there's a whole visa issues, which I'm sure you will come to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. I mean, I'll just give you a short anecdote. So
Yeah.
when I came to Oxford, I realized that one, I was part of a lot. I was part of the older PhDs. So within the PhD programs, at times you will see somebody who's as young as 26, who is maybe from the UK or from elsewhere in Europe, who is doing a PhD in Oxford at 26. And how did a lot of people get to that level? It is the people will do undergraduates, know they're interested in research, join a research lab as an intern, work towards getting a high quality publication, get
Mm.
very good references. So that whole mentorship culture, you find a lot of people out there at very young ages doing PhDs. But for a lot of international students, it takes you a while, sadly, to get to that level. These days, things are changing. You do have a few young international students coming for PhDs and getting opportunities because they have the right mentorship. But then, sadly, there's just that difference in opportunities, exposure, and the likes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's basically the core of the issue, especially at the PhD level, where research experience or publication becomes somewhat important. I mean, international students, especially from sub-Saharan Africa, I think that is a huge obstacle. I know people in this country with only bachelors and several publications to their name, masters, several publications to their name. And for us, I mean, go through medical school, do residency without a single publication. So when it comes to that part, I think it's a huge obstacle. And then of course the visa issues also there. And then I think you highlighted one other challenge, which is mentorship. Because most of the time, the difference between a very good candidate and an average candidate is just having someone mentor them through the process or having someone help them through the process. So I think that is good to highlight. All right, so I would just ask you one question and then we can move on. I know we have a couple of questions on LinkedIn and on YouTube. We'll try as much as possible to give brief answers to all. Um, okay, so the next question I have is with respect to standardized tests. In your application, what sort of did you have to write any standardized tests, GRE, GMAT, any language, proficiency tests? How was that experience like?
So I'll say the US is different from the UK. I've applied to the US at master's level before and gotten admissions in the US, even though I didn't take them up. I know the US, you do GRE, you do TOEFL, and exams like that. In the in the UK, some universities will have a test of English proficiency, which is called IELTS. For those who haven't heard that before, so if you are applying this year, it will be look at your program. Are there any tests of English proficiencies required? Do you need IELTS? Some universities will waive IELTS for you. So in my case, when I applied for a PhD, because I had done a master's in the UK, I didn't need IELTS to get into the PhD program. So it's not a problem at that level. But when I applied for my master's program, I needed to do IELTS. And just to track back, those standardized exams, they're also rate limiting steps, because it doesn't mean the first time you do them is the first time you get the minimum requirement for your program. And so I'll put them in together with things like transcripts, reference letters. Those are things that if I'm applying today, those are the things you need to check off your list early so that they don't become hindrances to your applications. Yeah. Back
Okay.
to you, Banda.
All right. So I think now it will be the time to kind of go through some of the questions we have. We will start. I'll read from LinkedIn and YouTube. We currently have over almost 350 watching us live, which is, I think, record breaker. So let's start with someone says, I have a question. Yeah, we are waiting for your question. Okay. All right. So let's see. This is our first question. Let me try and expand it a little. So Joseph Sampson this is from YouTube. He says, hello, Dr. Banda. I was the guy who asked about how to get direct admission into DRPH with my BSc in public health science and over a decade of work experience in the public health, specifically nonprofit. Joseph, I don't know if you wanted to ask a specific question, but
So I think I get his question.
yeah.
So for people who are not familiar on this call, and so when you are in Nigeria or Ghana or wherever you are, to get a PhD, people assume you have to do a master's first before you do a PhD. But then there are people who have gone straight from BSc to just doing PhDs direct, and that's possible. So what I get a sense of what Joseph is asking here is he has experience and he's asking how does he translate that experience into going from a BSc to a PhD? Now, a PhD is a mainly research degree. The way I've seen a lot of people translate that experience, like I mentioned, the story of a few of my colleagues was getting research experience under your belt, being able to translate your non-profit experience. For example, if you had data, pushing the data out there, going to conferences, using the data to write up publications, making sure your academic side shows, and then presenting that as, look, I have 10 years experience, I've done a few research projects, and this is me. So you can actually translate that to move directly from your BSc to a DRPH.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is certainly possible. I've seen a few candidates who move directly from even bachelor's to a PhD, or that is mainly what I've seen. But what I will add is that depending on the cycle, competition can be fierce, right? And at the PhD level, and especially at the DRPH, if I tell you the level of experience people are bringing, for the people I've worked with, the kind of experience they are bringing, and on top of that, with a master's from a very reputable institution, you would seem to think that if you have a bachelor's, it will be very difficult to make a case. So what I would say is that it's not impossible, but it always comes down to the application pool, how competitive it is. I'll give you a couple of examples. I have mentees who go into Boston, interview with Harvard, DRPH. Most of them so the MDs got masters from either a UK reputable institution or a master's from the US, a reputable institution. They've worked like several years with giant NGOs, right? But some of them even couldn't get an interview with Harvard or an interview with Boston. So if you want to be very competitive, I mean, you can try with a bachelor's for this cycle, but if you really want to be competitive, I would suggest that you get a master's, whether an MPH. Most of the successful candidates I've seen either have a master's in MPH or a master's in MPH and MBA. So therefore, we know that, okay, for DRPH, your main interest in more of a leadership style, front-facing approach than bench work or research work. So that component is key. So I hope you got the response that you were expecting. We have another question from Lawal Abdul Malik. He wants to know about the funding options in the UK. So what are some of the funding availabilities in the UK?
So I think I'll just break them.
Yeah,
Just
briefly. Yeah.
a brief. So when you're looking at funding in the UK, I like to think about broad classifications. One, is it an internal funding, so university specific funding? Is it an external fund, meaning, for example, an NGO, a governmental organization like the Commonwealth, external to the university? So that's external funding. I'll give you an example of internal funding. So in Oxford, there is, for example, what's the name of this? There's a Clarendon scholarship,
Okay.
which is Oxford specific scholarship. You see, the way those work is, if you were to apply to the university as an applicant for that year, you're eligible for the university specific scholarship if you get admitted into the university.
Okay.
For the external scholarships, it is you apply for them directly. So you apply for Commonwealth, you apply for Chevening, you can even have a national government scholarship. Apply for your national government scholarship. So in Nigeria, you have the mobile PTDF and things like that. And then they will have their own application processes, but you also apply to multiple universities. So you can use that scholarship for multiple universities. But for the internal scholarship, it is specific to that university. So that's just a summary answer to that.
Okay. I think it's basically the same here in the US, where they have like broad categories: institutional scholarship, as you mentioned, internal, and then probably external scholarships. And I would say the most reliable one in the US is perhaps institutional scholarship. If you're able to get an institutional scholarship, that will be your best bet. And that is only when you have a very strong application. And even now, the external scholarships in the US, most of the time, you still have to be a very good candidate, because some of the scholarships, like the World Bank Japan Scholarship, for instance, the schools or the programs have to recommend you before you can apply. So you first apply to, say, Hopkins, you get admission, and then they assess the strength of your application. If they feel you are a strong candidate, then they recommend you to the scholarship committee externally, and then you can put in your application for that scholarship. So I think it basically comes down to how can you put up a very strong application in order to be considered for either an internal or an external scholarship. Okay, I want us to take some questions from LinkedIn. We have Dimberu. Dimberu says, does age has a factor in the admission process? If I have to give a very short answer, I would say no, not that I've witnessed in graduate school. I mean, in my class, there were literally people who were taking gap years to come and do master's degree. So they are in their undergrad, and they've taken a gap year to come and do their masters. I've also seen ministers of state come for masters of public health at the very middle late stage of their career. They come in for masters. So I wouldn't say age is a limiting factor, as long as you can make a case.
What I would like to add there is I see where that person is coming from. Um, there's something called ageism, and ageism is real. Ageism is very real.
Mhm.
The truth about it is, the older you get, the more years you have post graduation. Whatever you go for, there's a subjective element to it where people want you to account for those years and how
Yeah.
you've spent years being productive. You see. So you might go to interviews, for example, with a 25-year-old and a 40-year-old, and those elements will come out.
Yeah.
That said, like Banda is saying, apply. You can always apply. Okay. There are some scholarships, however, also that will give an age limit, but then those scholarships might are few and far,
Yeah.
and they might have an age limit. But then some are open to everyone. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Okay. So let's take another question from it says this is from Zima Ibrahim. Hello, Dr. Mbada. Does one have to take the GRE if your GPA is low? Thank you. Okay. So I mean, from the US perspective, um, GRE used to be compulsory for most of the programs, but now they've waived, like most schools have waived GRE requirement, especially if you're applying to a public health related field. And they will tell you specifically GRE is not required, it will not be reviewed. So even if you take it, let's say, voluntarily, you think your GPA is low, so you want to take GRE to compensate for that, your GRE will still not be reviewed. So it depends on the program. However, if you're applying to, say, a dual degree program, say MPH and MBA, or you're applying to NBA alone, then you may be required to do GRE, irrespective of whether your GPA is low or you have a 4.0 GPA. So that's what I would say. For at the master's level and even at the PhD level, GRE is now not like a big deal for public health related fields. But if your GPA is low, I think there are other areas that you can look in order to strengthen your application. Abdul, I don't know if you have something to
No.
add there.
Yeah, I think it's what I'll just say is I think it becomes challenging to apply for a lot of programs if, for example, you have less than a 2-2. I'll give you an example. So I once tried the Commonwealth Scholarship
Mm-hmm.
in Nigeria, and I remember everybody who was below 2-1 was actually sent back from the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm just saying is, if there are any undergraduates listening, just take your undergraduate period very seriously because a lot of things that happen at that level, you can't really, it's very hard to divorce yourself from them when you get to higher levels. People will refer back to your transcripts, people will refer back to what was your grade in undergrad. So those
Mm-hmm.
years are foundational and they're actually very crucial.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you just have to make sure that your GRE is not below some of the thresholds. Some, as Abdul said, some programs would specifically state on their website, this is the GRE cutoff, or this is the GRE requirement. However, other programs will not put it there. But if you have a way to show that you've improved over the years, then perhaps that could be a good justification. Okay, so let's keep going. We have a couple of minutes more. This one say, is there such a thing as getting fully funded masters in computer science in the US? What I would say is yes. I've particularly interviewed, I think, two people who are currently at Georgia Tech doing one is doing his master's, another one is doing his PhD. They are all funded. So you can look for that video and then see what you can learn from it. We have one from Emmanuel Yossen who says, I'm applying to US. Looking at this time frame, I have MPhil, but yet to publish my work. Manuscript is ready. Do you advise I work on it to submit for publication to boost my resume? Abdulaziz, what do you think?
Okay. Here's what I think. I think whatever application you do is not wasted. That's the way I see it. I have applied for things and I didn't get them, but the mere fact that I put myself out there to apply, just the learning you get from it is immense. So what I'll advise you is, yes, submit your application. Yes, pursue your publication. Go forward with it. If it goes well, fine. You have the admission. If it doesn't go well, you've learned from the process. And by the time you come back for a next round, your publication is ready, you have a better CV, and then you can always apply. So you don't lose doing both at the same time.
Yeah,
That's one.
yeah. So I think I would just reiterate that. What if you can do both this cycle, submit your manuscript, and then indicate it on your resume that research experience, you've submitted a manuscript. So that alone is a good step, and then you can put in your application. Okay, Seydou Shamsu says, hello, Dr. Aziz. Could you kindly recommend some universities in the UK with good funding opportunities for us?
Okay. Okay. I don't want to name specific universities, but what I'll say is I can. So let me say there is what's called the Russell Group of Universities. So Russell, I think is Russell, Russell Group of Universities. They tend to be bigger universities. They have more funding. They have more money. More money. The truth about it is, so I've mentored a few people, and when you converse with people, people assume target low, target small universities, you have a chance of getting in.
That is
But the converse is smaller universities have smaller money. That's just how things work. The bigger universities have a lot of funding, you see. So that's one. So I went to Oxford, and being in Oxford, I saw Oxford has so much scholarships available. All you just have to do is apply and you get access to scholarships. But the challenge in big universities or universities like Oxford is before you even get to the admission, it's you have a lot of competition, you
yeah.
see. If you can scale the admission process, then there are opportunities for you. So I think rule of thumb, smaller universities tend to have less funding. The larger universities have a lot more funding, and you can always access the funding if you get admitted
Yeah.
into the unis.
Yeah. And I think you raise a very important point. And you see, that is one of the key reasons why I started providing resources online, providing guidance to help candidates who are thinking, who are not thinking within a very narrow set of opportunities. Because people often reach out and they're like, are you sure I can get into this program? Are you sure I can get into this program? Why don't you apply to some small program somewhere? And I see a lot of people advertise that kind of programs. Oh, apply to this program. You don't even need recommendation letter. You don't even need statement of purpose. And I'm like, what quality program would admit you without all these essential elements? So if you're ready to apply to graduate school, understand that it is not a shortcut. It is something that you have to put in a lot of work in order to get the best from what you have. Because I can tell you, people will say the school doesn't matter, but trust me, the school matter. That is why Abdul attended Oxford and not any other school. So the school you attend tends to impact your career trajectory or whichever way you look at it. Okay, so let's go back to LinkedIn. Someone says, this is from Blessing says, hello, Dr. Banda. Is it possible to get a PhD with 1 or 2 publications? Also, talking about GPAs, okay, 4.53 BSc. I think this is the Nigerian scale. Sometimes I get confused about Nigerian skills. 4.53 and then 2.87 MSc in public health. I'll be interested to know where you did your MSc. By your BSc, I'm probably assuming it's Nigeria. So if the scale, okay, so if the scale of the MSc is the 4.0 scale, that's not too bad. But I mean, you can address the publication bit.
Yeah.
What I would say from that end is that, I mean, 1 or 2 is not bad as long as it's high quality publications. Abdul, what do you have to add?
Yeah. So I think that's a good question, and I'll lean on what Banda is saying. I think when it comes to publications, there's a lot of focus on numbers, but then people have moved away from numbers.
Yeah.
It's more about what's the quality of the research work. Where was it published? What was your role? You see, a publication where you are a first author, meaning you're the lead author, is far higher than a publication where you were stuck somewhere in the middle. A publication where it's actually from experience. A
Yeah.
publication where you can showcase you were involved in conceptualization, method development, analysis, write up. You see, the person listening to you at the back end is doing check, 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 because that's what they want a PhD student to be. You see, they want you to show evidence of scholarship, research, be able to write. So it doesn't matter how many, it's not about the numbers, it's quality. What was your role in that? And if you can articulate that, then you're home and dry.
Yeah. Okay, great. We have approximately 10 to 12 minutes to round this up. Let's keep going. So Joseph says, for international students who completed their undergrad degree outside of the US or UK, is it still possible to apply to medical school after completing a master's or PhD in the US or UK? If you ask me, so for the US experience, for the ones I personally know, it is certainly possible to apply to medical school. What you need is the requisites. You need the prerequisites in order to apply. So in your undergraduate, what most people tend to do is that they will do a transcript evaluation to kind of know the courses that they've done and the courses that are required as a pre-med in the US. So if you don't have those courses, you can then take supplementary courses from either a community college or a proper university to kind of fill up those requirements. Once you fill or once you meet those requirements, then you can go on and write your exam, your standardized exam for medical school, and then you can apply to medical school. So that road is certainly open if you are interested. Yeah. Someone says, Vasti says, secondly, can one gain admission using a proof of English certificate from one school? I mean, it depends on the requirements, and I think applying to graduate school or even undergrad is not only about providing a proof of English certificates, but if TOEFL or English language proficiency is required, most of them will indicate the specific requirements they need, either a Duolingo or TOEFL or IELTS exam. However, if you are able to engage with the school directly to let them know this is your experience, sometimes they are able to waive it for you, especially if you are from an English speaking country like Nigeria or Ghana. Okay, so Onunujo, in our CV, should we add state bursaries we've received during our degree under our awards and honors? Abdul, what do you think?
Yeah, so I know some people add it. I mean, you'd lose nothing from adding it. That's what I
Exactly.
was saying.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
so if you've received, just put it there.
Yeah. Especially if you have few awards and honors to show.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any awards and honors, this certainly has to be there. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, I don't think we can finish this. I have managed to
Okay.
get 2 professors willing to submit recommendation letters for me, but I'm planning to add my boss, where I am doing my 1-year internship as a third recommender. Is it advisable? Yeah.
What I'll just say in short is, I mean, if whoever's recommending you, if they know the quality of your work and can speak to it, and they will speak to it in good light, then you can always add them. Yes. But I think just to step back a bit, and a strategy I used or I advise some of my mentees to use is, when you're choosing recommenders, look at your universities, because you can't have stress recommenders if you're applying to multiple universities. You can pick a set of, for lack of a word, maybe strong recommenders for the higher quality universities, and then for those universities that maybe are your second or third choices, you might decide what recommenders you want to use for those. So just give your best shot towards your top ranked. That's what
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah. So you always have to rank your recommenders based on specific criteria, those who are likely to give you a very strong recommendation, those who have known you for some time, those who's can speak to the program you're applying. I recently talked to one faculty member who said yes. I mean, if you're applying, let's say you're applying to a PhD in chemistry, and your professor has a PhD in chemistry and is recommending you, it tends to carry a little bit more weight because the person understands what it takes to get a PhD in that field. So recommending you means that the person feels you can actually, go to the program. Gospel Ozi says, "Hello, doctors. Watching from Nigeria, would a GRE score of 320 be considered a competitive or fair for dual degree programs with funding, MPH, MBA?" Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that 320 plus is pretty good GRE score. My score was around, I think it was around the same range or even slightly lower. So you are in a good spot to get admission. But funding is only based on your GRE score. As I always say, focus on the other things, your statement of purpose, your recommendation letters. Putting up a good story is really what differentiates you either getting a scholarship or not. But the good thing is that in Hopkins, anybody who gets into the dual MPH MBA program at the minimum gets about 35 to 50% scholarship. Everybody, once you get into that particular program, automatically you get those scholarships. So I'll say that yes, GRE 320 plus is good. Try and work on the other parts of the application so that you have a holistic, strong application. Okay, think this is for Abdul. Can I apply for MSc in the US or UK without having any publication?
So I'll say yes. And so an MSc is different from a PhD. A PhD is highly research based, and so people want to see what you've done research wise. For MSCs, I'll say yes. And it depends on what, if you're talking about funding, it depends on what fund you're looking at. The different types of funding. Some funds will look at what is your leadership potential as a person. So an example is the Weddingfield Hoffman in Oxford. They'll look at what's your leadership potential. Funding like Chevening and the likes look at what is your social impact, you see. So it depends on it's not only academic based,
Yeah.
it will be university specific funding might actually weigh on your publications. So when I applied for my master's a few years ago, I actually applied for the World Bank Joint Japan scholarship that Banda mentioned. And I remember then the form had list your publications, and I had no publications. And I knew I wouldn't get that scholarship, and I didn't get that scholarship. So I think it depends on what is the focus of the scholarship you're applying for. Is it social impact? Is it leadership potential? Is it academic based? You see. So short answer is yes, you can, but what package are you packaging? That's my
Okay, I think we'll take. Abdul, how many minutes you have? It's 10
Let's,
a.m.
we can give people 10,
Okay.
10 minutes extra, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. All
Let's
right.
wrap
So
up quarter.
let's wrap up in 10 minutes. I think this is a good question coming in. This is from Folktales. Okay. Anyway, hello, Dr. Banda. My question is: can a candidate who submits a competitive application without contacting a supervisor for a PhD program have possibility of getting admitted? Okay. Let me briefly, try to explain it from the US perspective. So in the US, you can think of the PhD application or even sometimes MSc application as two broad categories. Those where you are being funded through a supervisor, and those where you are being funded through the institution or through the department in general. When you are being funded by a supervisor, then the supervisor's words or the supervisor's recommendation becomes very important. In that instance, you absolutely need to reach out to the supervisor or to a couple of them, pitch your work and how you can help them, and then they can recommend that you get admitted. But there are other programs who would say you don't have to reach out to anybody because the funding is from the department. So we put everybody together. Once you get admitted, then we'll then assign you into a supervisor of your choice or a supervisor who is ready to take on candidates. So even though you don't have to send cold emails to every faculty in every program, I still say it is somehow, it's okay or it's recommended to do that. Reaching out to people and letting them know your interest, even if they are not able to help in your admission process, still, it's a good way of doing it. I remember when I was applying, I sent a PhD to some programs, and they all sent me a generic response. Because of fairness, we can't tell you how to do this, but if you're able to get in, we are ready to work with you. So cold email is not a must to get into a program, but I would say it's still recommended to send a couple of cold emails to faculties. Abdul, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with what Banda has said, and I'll give you my experience and just show you some of the benefits. So when I started trying to apply for a PhD, I thought I was going to apply. I didn't even think Oxford in the first place. I thought I was going to apply to a few universities, and then I was also going to apply for the Commonwealth Scholarship. And the Commonwealth Scholarship will actually specifically ask you to list two people who are university professors who you have who can serve as potential supervisors for you. And so I reached out to a bunch of people. Some replied, some didn't. But then I reached out to my current supervisor, and he sent an email 2 weeks after saying, I can't support you for this Commonwealth application, but I am going to advertise one of my studentships in Oxford at some point later in the year. maybe you should consider applying. And that's how I found out there was going to be a studentship. If I hadn't sent that email, I wouldn't know. And the rest is history. So, what am I saying? What Banda is saying is it costs you nothing. Academics are busy by nature. You might not get a reply. You might get a redirection. In my case, I got a redirection that served me. Served me. So you lose nothing. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Okay, someone is on LinkedIn says, do I need to pay application fee for UK during the application process?
Short answer, yes. So a lot of universities have application fee.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly in the US, you have to pay application fee. However, in quotation marks, there are occasions where you can apply for an application fee waiver, and based
Yes.
on your circumstances, some programs can actually waive it for you. So that's
And also
something.
countries and also countries where you're from. Some
Yeah,
countries are low income and then you get a waiver based on the fact that you're from those countries.
yeah, that's certainly true. Okay. Um, Cuba Sibeko says, "Good afternoon, everybody. Apart from having a decent GRE score, does volunteering boost my chances of getting into a good business school for my MBA in the US?" What I would say is that yes, as Abdul mentioned, one thing that especially top programs, one thing that they take into consideration in order to make admission decisions is social capital. What have you done? What are you likely? What is likely to be your impact on the community? Every program is looking for future leaders. Every program is looking for those who they feel can exert some level of impact or influence in their own space. So having a volunteerism experience certainly is a huge boost, I'll say. And I always say that one of the reasons why I got the offers or the scholarships I had during the master's program is because my whole application was presented as someone who has spent years serving a community or years serving, let's say, at the global level with the UN. So that comes off at being really having the likelihood of being a leader or driving impact in your own field. So yes, volunteerism is a huge part of your application process. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, is it possible for an undergraduate student to publish a research paper independently without co-authors but with a supervisor?
So your supervisor can actually be your co-author.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, that's the short answer. Your supervisor will be your co-author.
Yeah.
If you're saying publish a paper on your own without anyone else, that's a different ball game. I won't advise you to do so. The thing about research and research practice is it's an apprenticeship. You can't read it and do it. It's something you learn with people who are experienced, and so you learn it by being an apprentice. That's what I'll say,
Yeah.
and that's how you go.
Okay. Let's keep going. Can I send cold emails to more than one faculty members in the same school?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the short answer is yes, but you have to be strategic. So, what you do is that if it's the same department, you have to be careful in like mass emailing every faculty in that department. You have to pick probably 2 to 3. If I'm applying to, let's say, PhD in epidemiology, and I go to the epidemiology department of, say, Johns Hopkins, you have to make sure that you are not sending emails to just everybody. Look for those who research interest or the work they are doing aligns with your research interest, and then pick like your top 2 or top 3 and then send out cold emails. That is more strategic than just sending it to everybody. I remember, sending cold emails to some faculty members in McGill, university in Canada. That was my first cycle. I mean, I sent emails to almost all the faculty. So one reached out to me and was like, we know you are a good, a good student or a good candidate, but sending emails to many people just shows that you haven't done deep research into areas that they are working into or areas that they are really interested in. So I would suggest that just pinpoint 2 or 3 people that you think their research interest really aligns with yours, and then send them cold emails. So yes, you can send to more than one, but it shouldn't be like everybody in the department. Yeah. Okay, let's take 2 more. Okay, someone says, thank you for sharing these insights. I'm planning to switch fields for my PhD, but I don't have masters in the new area. How can I best bridge that gap? This is $1 million question. So it's tough, man. It's tough, especially if the fields are too different. You need some form of explanation as to why are you pivoting, and what have you done to show that your current interest now lies in this field. So I think those are the key questions you have to answer. Why are you transitioning? And what have you done to show that the new field you're picking, you've really developed an interest in? So, as you said, it could be maybe doing another master's or doing an internship in the new area that you're trying to transition, or doing some form of research in that new area that you're trying to transition, or getting a master's degree in that new area that you're trying to transition. If you don't have any explanation for that gap, it becomes very difficult. Programs will think you're just hopping from one PhD to the other, and that can actually be a negative outlook for you. All right. So, Abdul, I think we'll take a last question. If we were not able to respond to all the questions, which I'm sure we can't, what we can do is maybe during the week we'll come back to the comment section and try and see if we can answer some of the questions that we were not able to answer. Somebody say thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, so Abdul, please, are there job opportunities while studying in the UK or US? This will be our last question, unfortunately. Job opportunities, so more like student job opportunities as international students.
Okay. So I'll give you my experience and then I'll just tell you what I saw other people doing. So I came to the UK for my PhD, but then I had a license to practice in the UK. So while I was in the UK as a PhD student, I was also practicing medicine. Well, that's me. That's not everyone. What I saw other people do was, if you're in a university, particularly a large university, there are opportunities where you can serve as tutors, teaching assistants with master's programs and things like that. In Oxford, for example, you could work as a volunteer in your college and you get paid an hourly rate. So the university itself will. So I know people who were also exam invigilators. So the university itself has opportunities for PhD students or postgraduate students to work at some level within the university. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you can work outside of the university.
Okay. Yeah, I think basically those are the key elements. In the US, if you're an international student, what you can mainly do, I mean, the most popular one is just to get an on-campus job. An on-campus job could be, working as a research assistant, working as a teaching assistant, or working in any other capacity, but within campus. the US is very particular about it. So within campus or on-campus jobs, you can work up to 20 hours a week. But if you want to, let's say you want to work outside of campus, you need a special permission. And that role has to be aligned with the program that you're applying or the programs that you are currently enrolled. So that is not common. And that is, if you do that without permission, that can violate your visa status. So yes, there are job opportunities on campus. I mean, everybody I know at Hopkins at some point was a research assistant who was getting paid. So yes, you can work alongside being a student. However, at the PhD level, sometimes because of funding restrictions, you'll be told that because of this particular funding, you are expected to work without actually getting extra pay, but the PhD gives you stipend. So that becomes more like the form of you working. All right. So I know we couldn't answer all your questions. We'll try and come online and answer some of the questions in the comment section. But before we go, Abdul, any final words for international students? I know we are trying to see whether we can put together a very short course or a master class on either the application process itself or specific components, maybe how to craft a strong statement of purpose or a strong resume. So any last words?
What I'll say is, if you look at myself and Banda and a lot of people out there, I think it's possible. It's possible to chase your dreams. It's possible to achieve your dreams. I just think you need the right information. You need the right people around you. It's a global world. You have access to a lot of things. So put yourself out there, chase opportunities, give it your best. Yes, and just a shout out like Banda. I'm on LinkedIn. Follow me. Send messages. Reach out. We're involved in academic consulting. Reach out to us and you just see. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. As Abdul said, I mean, you have to work towards your potential, right? So the opportunities won't hunt for you. You have to search for them. Thanks everyone for watching. Remember, the application cycle is now open. So if you are really thinking about graduate school, this is the best time to start putting your application for the US. The UK starts in September. If you found this session useful, connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Dr. Banda Khalifa. Thank you, everybody, again for joining. Hopefully, we'll have a couple of these sessions before the admission cycle closes. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye. Welcome. I'm Dr. Banda Khalifa, a physician and a global health strategist, and the founder of Banda Global Consults. We exist to support ambitious professionals and institutions committed to global impact. If you are here, you're serious about excellence in global health, in academia, and in leadership. Whether you're facing a critical career transition, seeking advanced academic admission, or positioning yourself for influential leadership, we provide strategic guidance and targeted execution to accelerate your success.
Emmanuel Animation. I am a Nigerian physician. I met Dr. Banda sometime last year when I was at a very confusing stage of my application process, trying to apply to public health schools in the United States. I needed information and I went online in search of it. I found his LinkedIn profile and I went through it. I remember I spent a long day going through his LinkedIn profile and I got a lot of insights into the application process. I also followed his YouTube channel where I saw a lot of videos. By following him and following the steps he had outlined, I had positive results.
What drew you to the Bloomberg School of Public Health?
I'll say it's a lot of factors. For one, Bloomberg School of Public Health is known for its reputation in public health, being the #1 school of public health. I've had the privilege of having my master's degree here and understand the rigorous nature of the program. So it's
let me
sets
call
the
you on WhatsApp.
program apart from other schools.
Can you hear me?
Another thing that drew me to the Bloomberg School of Public Health for my PhD is mainly the network that I built during the MPH program. I really wanted to build on these networks and further expand the networks that I already have. And as a side note, I also, most of the courses that I did in the MPH were transferable to the PhD program. So it was a seamless transition from the MPH program to the PhD program.
Can you hear me? I've been trying to get to you. I think so. Maybe I can call you. Let me call you on LinkedIn. Hey, let me call you on Facebook. On WhatsApp, rather.
For solutions, trustworthy health communications, and for the restoration of.
For some reason, when we are doing live and you call me, I can't hear the guest.
And empower you.
I'm stepping into join live. So let me call you on WhatsApp.
The pandemic hasn't just underscored the need for our work, it has also revealed the steep path ahead, rebuilding public trust in health institutions.
Yeah,
my name is Sharon Kabo, and I'm a medical doctor from Ghana, and currently a dual MPH MBA.
Oh yes. It went really well. I mean, this kind of sessions, if you want to answer all the questions, you end up spending 2 hours or 3 hours.
From the selection of my
because everybody has a question.
My recommenders, and even the entire super's process.
Yeah.
They helped put the application together, which helped me to finally gain admission to most of the schools that I selected, which includes the Brown University, Columbia University, University of Pennsylvania,
trying to package it well.
I'd like to recommend his YouTube channel to you and his LinkedIn channel.
So we were talking. I think we can certainly organize something.
At the end of the application cycle, I had offers from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, from Emory.
If we make it super specific, that would be great.
From schools I applied to,
because I feel like just leaving it like graduate school application is too broad.
As an MPH, MBA,
it's too broad. So I'm saying maybe we can say
which school I picked eventually.
The most important component I feel is the statement of purpose.
Nice offers I had.
So if we can do something like writing a statement of purpose for masters
and
PhD,
come along with me as I share the strategy of putting together a very strong application
that's what I feel.
For graduate school.
I will and as part of the package, maybe
program
directors package, we
and
can
admission
have
committee members
anyone who
come and share their
enrolls
thoughts
will get
on how to get into
SOP review.
Their programs.
My name is Cornelius Nomeshi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard THN School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience.
Okay, so how about if we keep it generic? How to write
a personal statement,
a strong statement of purpose
for the writer's course, and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the
statement of purpose. Maybe if you have some examples to share.
Boston University and then Harvard
you have some
University.
examples.
My name is Munib Zaidi. I'm a dual degree MPH MBA from Karachi, Pakistan. I just finished my program. I want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Banda Khalifa. He's been inspirational for all of us, a role model. So keep watching his channel, subscribe for more details, and you'll be here one day just like all of us. Thank you.
Around maybe
it was great because
September
of you. It wouldn't have been the same without you.
That would be a good
spot. For 2025 cohort. I'm very happy to be here, and one of the main person who I followed to get my essays done during my application process is Banda Khalifa. His videos on YouTube I used to follow, and it was really helpful and kind of motivating for me to get into Johns Hopkins. Very much thank you, Banda. Thank you so much.
Congrats for making it. If you're ready to lead now, not later, schedule your private strategy session. Let's begin.